What's up guys, Dave here from Knives, Gadgets, and More, and today we're going to review these two knives. Alright guys, on the table today we have two great knives that I bought with my own money, and we're going to compare them today. Now on the left we have the Boker Magnum Cooperator, and on the right we have the Kershaw Cryo. And let me start by saying that both of these are awesome little knives. I'm glad I bought both of them. But we're going to compare the two today, and then at the very end of this video, I'm going to let you know which one I would choose if I could only have one. So let's get started with the comparison. And let's start by talking about the steel that you get. So with the Boker Magnum Cooperator, and I've always loved the way this knife looks, it's super cool. The steel that you're getting is going to be right there, 440 stainless, specifically 440A on the Cooperator. And 440A it's okay, it's not horrible, but to be honest, it would not be my first choice. I would like to see something a little bit better on this knife because 440A is going to be a little bit soft, not have the best edge retention, but on the flip side of that, it should be really easy to sharpen when you need to. So there's kind of always a give and take. But yeah, in general, I would like to see something a little bit better, but it is okay. Now with the Kershaw Cryo, the steel you're getting is 8CR13 MOV, which is also not the greatest steel, but I think it is better than 440A. It also can be a little bit soft and not have the best edge retention, but here's the thing, and I've said this before when talking about this knife, I have reviews on both of these knives. Kershaw has figured out how to heat treat this particular steel really well. And so even though it's just an average kind of okay steel, the heat treating that they do gives it really good edge retention. And I've used this knife a lot, and it's held up really, really well. Now out of these two knives, which one would I call the winner in terms of the steel that you get? I think the winner is going to be the Cryo. I think the 8CR13 MOV is a little bit better than the 440A that you get with the Cooperator. And on top of that, I think the heat treating that Kershaw does just adds another little element to the blade steel and makes it a little bit better. So, winner in this category is going to be the Cryo. Now next, let's talk about the blade shape that you get. So with the Boker, you have kind of a drop point blade. And like I told you before, I love the way this knife looks. I think the blade looks really cool, kind of classic looking, and then you've got the handle which goes along with that, which we'll talk about, and just makes it look like a really awesome little folding knife. Now the drop point blade that you get on this one does cut very well, so there's been no issues there, and yeah, I think it looks great. Now I also like the way the blade is shaped on the Kershaw Cryo. They're almost a little bit similar. I don't know if I'm seeing things or not, but again, you have a drop point, but it is a little bit smaller of a knife, which may be a good or a bad thing for you. But yeah, I think the blade shape on this knife looks great, and it also cuts and slices really, really well. So no issues there. Now, out of the two, which one do I think is better? Well, again, they both cut really well and slice well. So it really comes down, in my opinion, to which one I think looks better. And I really like the way both of them look. So I don't do this very often, but in terms of blade shape and blade looks, I'm gonna call it a draw in this category because I think both these knives have really cool blade shapes, and they also both cut really well. So for me, there's not enough that separates the two here, and I'm gonna get a little bit lazy and just call it a draw. Sorry. Alright, next let's talk about the handle. So with the Boker here, you've got a really interesting handle in my opinion. You've got kind of the metal part at the top, and then you've got the wood at the bottom. And again, I think this knife looks awesome. I love the way this knife looks. Kind of classic, and I just think it looks really cool, especially with the gunmetal type color at the top. Now the handle is very comfortable, and you do have some jimping there at the top. And yeah, this handle feels really comfortable in your hand. It feels great. It's very ergonomic. You've got some finger grooves right here, no hot spots, and you can get a very good grip on the knife. But yeah, I really love the wooden look of these grips. It is actual wood. I think it's called, what is it? It's called Huali wood. It's a Chinese like furniture wood, which also makes this knife kind of cool. I think the wood that they use is a pretty cool choice. But yeah, I think it looks great, and more importantly, it feels great. So everything looks good there. Now, when I hold the knife like this, you can see it is a fairly thick grip. And that does make the knife more bulky when you carry it around in your pocket. So keep that in mind. And then I also want to point out that even though I love the way this knife looks, The fit and finish is just okay. This is a Chinese made knife and it's an affordable knife, but the fit and finish is just okay. You can kind of see where the wood meets up with the metal there. Again, it's okay on an affordable knife. Same thing on this side. But yeah, it's not top of the line fit and finish, but I don't think that's that big of a deal because this is not a $100 knife or something like that. So yeah, overall, I think the grip that you get on the Boker Cooperator is very comfortable and ergonomic, but it's not the thinnest grip, and that is going to make it a little more bulky to carry around. Now the grip that you get on the Kershaw Cryo is stainless steel, and it's also a very comfortable grip to have in your hand. Even though it's a completely different material, it is a very, very comfortable grip to handle. It's very ergonomic. You do have some jimping up here at the top, and yeah, it feels great in your hand as well, even though it's a smaller grip too. On top of that, look at that, the handle here is fairly thin, and again, that's important because that is going to make the knife carry more comfortably in your pocket if you're trying to choose an EDC blade. And I can tell you just from experience that because I have carried both of these knives, this one is super easy to carry around. It sits nice and flat in your pocket, and it basically just disappears. But at the same time, it still has a very comfortable grip, so you get that slim handle and a comfortable grip at the same time. Now out of these two, which one do I think has the better grip? Well, they're both very comfortable, but I'm gonna give the win to the Kershaw Cryo. And I'm gonna give the win because I think the fit and finish is just a little bit better on the Cryo. But more important than that for me is that it's a more slim handle, and that makes the Kershaw a lot more comfortable to carry around in your pocket all day long than the Cooperator. All right, and the next thing we're gonna talk about is the locking mechanism. So you can see here with the Boker Magnum, the locking system is a liner lock. And so to close this knife, all you do is push it to the side and you close the blade. And then when you want to deploy the blade, you have thumb studs on both sides, and you can slowly deploy it with your thumb. But because this knife has a very, very smooth deployment, you can easily flick it open. And yeah, that's one of the things that I really, really like about this particular knife. It's always had a very buttery smooth deployment, and for me that makes a knife fun. I like to fidget with these knives all the time. I love a super smooth and easy blade deployment on these affordable knives. Now real quick, let's just check the wiggle. No wiggle. Show you the blade alignment. Looks pretty good. But yeah, really smooth blade to deploy on the Boker Magnum Cooperator, and I think that's definitely a positive for this knife. Now as for the Kershaw Cryo, you can see here that it's actually a frame lock. So you got the whole frame that comes over to lock out the blade. And you can see this part right here is cut out to make the frame flexible. And then when you push it to the side, this disc prevents you from pushing the frame too far over. So you close the blade very easily, and then when you want to deploy the blade on the Cryo, you've got a few options. You've got thumb studs on both sides of the blade, and you also have a flipper. And for me, I love knives that have flippers, so this knife flips open super smooth. Now this knife is an assisted opener, so when you push that flipper, the blade really snaps out super easy. It's super fun, and yeah, Kershaw did a great job on the deployment of this knife. It's very positive and very good. Now when you do close the blade, because this is an assisted opener, it does get a little bit, there is some resistance right there. It's not that bad though. And then to deploy, very easy, very smooth, snaps out nice and positive, and again, it's super fun. So now real quick, let's check the wiggle. No wiggle. Let's check alignment. Looks pretty good. But yeah, great deployment on the Kershaw Cryo. Definitely a good system from Kershaw there. Now out of the two, which one do I prefer? Which locking system do I prefer? This is actually a tough category for me because I really like the deployment on both of these knives. This knife deploys really, really smooth, and it's actually really fun to deploy. but the same can be said for this one. And this one is also an assisted opener, which kind of makes it snap out really easily. It's a really tough call on this category, but for me, I always love a flipper when I can get it, so the Kershaw Cryo is going to win right here, just because it has the flipper. Alright, now let's talk about the clips that you get. So with the Boker Cooperator, you can see that you get a deep carry clip, and it's kind of a long clip for a longer knife, but it has some holes which might reduce a little bit of weight and maybe look just a little bit cooler. It does set you up for tip down carry, and it doesn't look like there's any way to swap it for tip up carry. And for me, that's not an issue at all. I think tip up or tip down carry is fine. I do both. Aside from that, you cannot swap the clip to the other side. There's no way to do that either. So you've just got one position for the Boker. It's a fine position for me just as a regular right-handed user, but that's something you should keep in mind if that doesn't work for you. Now, as for the Kershaw Cryo, you've got a lot of options. So the way it came to me, it was set up for tip down carry, and I did not change it. So basically the same setup as the Boker. However, with the Cryo, you can see you got two screws on the, oh, and by the way, it is a deep carry clip, which is good because I always prefer deep carry clips. They just sit in your pocket a little deeper, and I don't know, I just like them a little bit better. But anyway, you got those two screws there, and you've got two screw holes right here, so you can easily swap this to tip up carry if that's what you prefer. And on top of that, you've got a set of screw holes right there and some right here. So you've got 4 positions where you can swap the clip to on the Cryo, and that's cool. That makes this a really modular system, and you can carry it any way that you want to and really optimize it for you. So that's an awesome design right there. I really like what Kershaw did. Again, I'm fine with tip up or tip down, but other people have preferences, and this knife gives you options. So I really like that, and I think it's a great feature that Kershaw included in this knife. Now, I do want to show you what both of these knives look like when they're in a pocket, so let me do that next. Alright, so again, both of these knives have deep carry clips, so they both disappear out of your pocket. And again, that makes them just a little bit more low profile. It's not a big deal if a little bit of your knife is sticking up, in my opinion, but I do prefer the deep carry system when I can get it. Aside from that, you can see the clip is much longer on the Boker than it is on the Kershaw, and that's probably because you have a much larger knife. You can kind of see the difference there. Now, like I said before, the Kershaw is much slimmer knife, and the Boker is definitely a more bulky knife to carry around. You're gonna notice it more if you keep it in your pocket all day because it's bigger and bulkier and heavier. And the lighter, slimmer Kershaw Cryo, it just disappears in your pocket and is a very, very easy knife to carry around all day. On top of that, like I said before, you've got the different clip positions that you can easily swap on the Cryo. So out of the 2 clip designs, the winner has to be the Kershaw Cryo because you can swap that clip to 4 different positions and really set the knife up exactly how you want to carry it. Alright, the last thing I want to do is give you kind of a size comparison of the two. And I'm not going to measure these 2 knives out. You can see my reviews for both of these knives where I do that. But obviously the Kershaw Cryo is a much smaller knife. It is also more lightweight, even though you have the stainless steel handle. And again, that just makes it a more comfortable knife to carry around in your pocket. Now, that's not to say that you can't carry the Cooperator, because I have carried this knife, and it's okay, but you definitely notice a lot more than this knife, and it's obvious why. So there's kind of what the two look like side by side, a size comparison. Maybe you're looking for a bigger knife, maybe you're looking for a smaller knife. That gives you an idea of how these 2 knives compare there. Alright guys, so in the end, which of these 2 knives do I prefer? If I could only choose one, which one am I going to choose? Well, I am going to choose the Kershaw Cryo. This is an awesome little knife. I love the way it looks. I love the way it cuts. I like the blade steel, especially with the heat treating that Kershaw does on it. I like that it has a flipper, which allows you to deploy it very easily. And yeah, I think it's a great size, weight, and has great slimness, and that makes this knife carry very, very well because you forget it's there. And then when something comes up where you need to cut a box or something like that, you remember you have it and it's right there. So yeah, this is a great everyday carry knife. I love this knife. I'm very glad I bought it, and I do highly recommend it. Now, none of that is to say that this is a bad knife. Like I said, I bought this knife too, and I'm glad I bought it. The things I like about this knife are, I love the way it looks overall. It's just really cool. And I love that it has a super smooth deployment. It was actually surprising to me how smooth the blade deployed on this knife, and it still is today. It's a pretty good system. Now again, it's not the best fit and finish, a little bit of a gap right there with the wood, but again, this is an affordable knife. It's not super expensive, and I think it looks great, it cuts great, and it has a smooth deploying blade, which is always a good thing and always something that I'm looking for, even in these affordable knives. But yeah, the winner here, if I could only choose one, it's definitely going to be the Kershaw Cryo. Just an easier knife to carry around in your pocket. I think it's built a little bit more sturdy too, and yeah, it's my pick. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me down in the comments below. Now again, I bought both of these knives. I'm glad I bought both of these knives. I like having both of them in my collection. If you're interested in either of these two knives, I will leave links in the description below. Those are affiliate links and they do help out the channel, so thank you if you use them. Other than that, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in the next video. See ya.